and I'm not a victim. This is my story. So, I just don't want to come across as like complaining, because I felt like the guy in the video, or the NPR thing kind of did. Like, oh, I took all these student loans and now I don't have a job, and like I'm just not going to pay them off because like they screwed me over. I'm like, well, you made a decision in life to take out these loans, and like you're responsible for them, and you need to do whatever it takes to pay them back. Even if that means having a job you don't want, or eating rice and beans. Like, you have a responsibility. So
for you, it's kind of like a morality thing.
No, I just think that, like for me, I took out student loans to go to law school, and it turns out that I didn't become a lawyer. And that's a personal decision that I made. I don't think that you can I don't think you should make excuses for the decisions that you've made and the consequences which brought them to where you are. So, if you take out loans, unless that you were swindled, like unless they put information in there that you didn't understand, or they took advantage of you, exploited you, then you have a responsibility to pay them back in any means that you can. I think that people should offer you help in doing that. Now the question becomes, like, did they swindle you in getting you to go to school? Did they like promise you like a job and then you didn't understand? Maybe. I personally did. I knew what I was getting myself into. I knew when I took the loans out I was going to have to pay them back. I knew the interest rates. I knew the struggle it would be. I just assumed that I would be a lawyer and it would be easy. Turns out I'm not, so it's harder.
At what point did you start to realize, I don't think I want to be a lawyer, and what was the reasoning behind that?
Well, I went to law school because I wanted to be an advocate. I wanted to be a voice for the voiceless. I wanted to fight the good fight and bring like justice and social justice to the world. And I was really passionate about that. And I thought to myself, well, I could go to law school and do this, or I could do like JVC, Jesuit Volunteer Corps, or like AmeriCorps, Peace Corps, and like then kind of figure things out from there. But I knew that I wanted to fight for like social justice, just because that's what I was passionate about. And I thought, well, I can do that through law most effectively, and I can get paid for it at the same time. So that's why I went to law school in the first place. Immediately upon entering law school, I kind of didn't regret my decision, but didn't feel comfortable with my decision, because it felt like all the people around me were not like me, did not have the same kind of mindset that I had, except for a lot of the older students who were there in their 40s, who had come back to school after experiencing the world and they were a little bit more down to earth. I'm not trying to undercut my classmates. They're good people. It's just they were more, a lot of times, they would express how they were going to law school in order to make money, whereas I was going to law school because I wanted to help people. I wanted to make money too, and they wanted to help people too. It was just the primary focus was a little bit different. So they're good people. They're just trying to survive the way anyone else is trying to survive. But it just felt like their primary focus was a little bit different than mine, and it was really difficult for me to make friends and form relationships there. Which everywhere else in my life, it's not very difficult. I have a lot of really close relationships in every other aspect of my life, but there. So like I ate lunch by myself, I studied by myself, I was turned off by conversations with people I had a lot of times because they were more worried about the case or the facts of the case as opposed to the person involved with the case. So like immediately I felt uncomfortable with the decision, but I just thought, well, nobody likes law school. Keep going forward. It's going to lead you to some place you want to be. So like endure the struggle and you'll get there. I started performing academically a lot better towards the end of my second year. Started to gain a little bit more confidence in my decision. Decided that I wanted to do a externship with the Covington Public Defender's Office. And the lawyers there are awesome. they're super cool, super down to earth, super passionate about like helping the marginalized of society, and I thought like this could be a place I want to be. But it was difficult to walk into a courtroom and hear a judge dismiss a person because of a decision that person made. So they define that person by the decision they made as opposed to by the person. So everything you need to know about a client in a courtroom is inside of like a little manila folder that says like their criminal history and their name and social security number. But it doesn't say like if they were loved as a child, or if they were abused, or if their parents did drugs and so they do drugs, or if they were, poor and didn't get a good education because society failed them. It doesn't say any of that. It just says like, oh, you robbed this liquor store, so you're a criminal, and now you need to be punished for being a criminal. The majority of crimes that happen in northern Kentucky are drug related. So if someone will steal something in order to pawn it off so they can buy drugs, or they're just doing drugs and getting arrested for having drugs or doing drugs. So the problem was the drug, and the drug occurred because of the social fabric. I feel like there was something wrong with the community and neighborhood and people loving people, and lawyers react to that problem. So when somebody got in trouble, the lawyer tried to get them out of trouble, or try to help them, or try to give them a second chance. But they never actually tried to fix society, like the problem, the neighborhood, the community. And so I decided at the end of my externship that I really didn't want to be a lawyer. I wanted to fix society. I wanted to help fix neighborhoods and transform the fabric. If a child is loved and accepted and given a good life and a good education, they're not going to be criminals. So I think our neighborhood and our societies have failed us, and therefore people make mistakes when they get older. That's not true in every situation, but I think in the majority of them it is. So I decided I wanted to change neighborhoods, change the fabric of our society. I finished law school because I was already 2 years in, and I might as well finish the third year to get the degree. It'd be a lot of money wasted if I didn't at least get the degree. And just some other things happened, some other things that I consider symbolic things happened in my life that led me down a different path, that made me feel more confident, not taking the bar and not pursuing law, and trying to do more of a community organizing job.
How do you fit into the TSP project on confronting payday loans and debt and community action research? What's your role? How do you see you having an opportunity to be effective, if at all?
I think that at first it was really difficult because I didn't see myself as part of the community of people we were working with. And I still don't feel like I'm part of the community of people who have been marginalized completely financially by society. So people who've been marginalized financially, are people who didn't receive the best education probably, or grew up in an environment that didn't really foster innovation or beliefs or the idea that they could succeed in a way that was beyond what they saw every day. My experience was I was told as a child, you can be anything, you can do anything, you can change the world if you want to, and I don't think that most people in the world and even in America are told that. I think most people see their surroundings and think, this is all I'm capable of. Whether that's a conscious idea or if it's subconscious, it's just that they believe that inside of them. So it was really difficult for me to see myself within the community of alternative financial services because I have not been marginalized by society. I've been given every opportunity in the world to succeed, more than most people. And I wasn't tricked, or I didn't feel desperate. I made a conscious decision to take out loans to improve my life. Where I feel connected is this idea of now you're in debt. Now what? What do we do now that you are in over your head? Let's say you made poor choices. Let's say you took out a loan that you couldn't afford to pay back. Let's say you took out a loan and then your wife got sick, or you lost your job, or something that you didn't expect happened, which is my situation. I didn't expect not to be a lawyer. So now what do we do? What do we do with all these people or all this debt? In the governmental situations, like, so you expected to find weapons of mass destruction, and now you didn't, and now you paid for a war that you couldn't afford. Now what do we do? So the government's doing the same thing that average, everyday people are doing. They're making decisions based on assumptions that may or may not come true. But now what? What do we do? What do I do now that I'm in $100,000 plus in debt? What does the guy who took a $500 payday loan out do now that he can't pay it back? And I don't know the answer to that, but I'm interested in helping to find solutions to that problem or that question of now what.
Has your perception of debt in our current world changed from the beginning of the project to this moment right now?
I think that my perception always changes, like it changes every day. Regardless if I was part of this project or not, it would change somehow. I think this project has made it a little bit more intentional in that I am dealing with the idea of debt every Friday and then some Saturdays for a couple hours. And it really actually makes me feel really scared and vulnerable, because I think about money on a daily basis. I think about every purchase that I make. I think about every potential purchase that I might have to make in the future. Every cent that I spend, I realize is a cent that I can't spend somewhere else. So money and financial issues are very very real to me in my everyday life, in my everyday decisions. Whether or not I want to drive to pick up a friend is like, well, that's gas money. Do I really want to drive an extra 7 miles this week? Whether or not I go to my best friend from college wedding in Alabama, it's $50 for the hotel, split between 4 people. We have to share beds. It's not the most comfortable. It's not the most extravagant hotels. I'm not flying. I'm driving. Do I want to put the miles in my car because I'm going to need an oil change a month earlier now? Do I want to, spend the money on the hotel room even though it's cheap? What can I give her? What gift can I give someone in this situation? Nothing. I can't afford to give my best friend from college a gift, which isn't really that big of a deal in the grand scheme of things, but I want to, and I can't. So debt doesn't really stop me from living. It just stops me from being able to do meaningful things that I want to do. I want to be able to not have to say to my brother, can we get a cheaper suit for your wedding in June? Because I can't afford a $150 rental fee. Can we, sorry, I can't really afford to take a day off of work, so I'm going to be late to your rehearsal dinner because I can't leave work. No, friend, I can't hang out with you because I have to have a second job. Or, no, mom and dad, I can't come over for dinner tonight because I have to work on this TSP project. So things that other people take for granted, I think about constantly. And again, I'm not a victim. It'd be nice to have some help. It'd be nice for people to at least understand the circumstances.
Do you get the sense that the people that surround you in your social life are dealing with similar financial situations, or do you feel that you are alone in what you are constantly dealing with in terms of having to be very intentional about your spending when you drive 7 miles in your car and you're thinking about your gas money?
I think that everyone around me is dealing with it. And I think that it's just different degrees. Mm-hmm. So my parents worry about money. They have plenty of money. But my dad says, turn off the light, I don't want to pay that electricity bill. Mm-hmm. Or, don't take a 10-minute long shower, take a 7-minute long shower. So my parents think about money all the time, and they have plenty of money. They live in a very nice suburban neighborhood with a probably $250,000 to $500,000 house, somewhere in that range. Like, they're not hurting for money, but they always are worried about money too. And my roommates who have $40,000 a year jobs, they'll buy things that are out of my price range, but then they'll say, oh, well, my budget's really tight at the end of the month. I only have like a couple $100 left, or I don't have much to save. I can't afford retirement. Or like my one roommate wants to buy a house, but he can't afford a house. I can't afford a house, but I'm not even thinking about a house. So I'm thinking if I could even come close to affording a house, that'd be awesome. But he's thinking if I didn't have to worry about buying a house, if I only had to worry about my electricity bill, that would be awesome. So it's just different degrees of worry. Everyone in the world is worried about money, except people who have no money and don't need money. If you're living in like a commune or a tribe or a village somewhere that doesn't use money, then you're probably not worried about it. But everyone's worried about money.
Do you talk about it with the people around you? Is it something that you engage in conversations about? I mean, so you seem to have some idea about what the people in your life do worry about in terms of their finances. Is it something that you can have frank conversations about?
Yeah. So my roommate Ben and his fiance, or not fiance yet, but they're going to get married. Her name is Christina, but everyone calls her Danny. And we were talking the other night about wedding costs and engagement rings. And he wants to buy a house. He wants to get his CPA, which costs money to take the classes and to take the test, in time that he can't spend doing other things. And then he wants to get married, all in the next 2 years, which is a ton of money. And his parents aren't really going to help him out with the wedding, and her parents aren't alive, so she doesn't have any help, and she's in a ton of debt from school. But so they have all these debts, and he's like, what kind of engagement ring can I afford to give you? And what kind of wedding can we really have? And so they're trying to find all these ways to cut spending, cut costs in their wedding. And I said to him just last night, I said, your wedding, how fancy your wedding is doesn't matter. All that matters is that people around you are celebrating with you. So why are you putting so much pressure on yourself to have a huge catered wedding? Why are you putting so much pressure on yourself to have a nice venue? We can go to a park and hang out. Who cares? Because we're together. And I think that's the main problem, is that people are told they have to have certain things. People are told you have to have a wedding with a catered dinner. People are told you have to have a nice venue. People are told they need to go to college. People are told they need to go to professional school now. People are told they need a house. Why? Why do you need all these things? My parents are told that they need to live in this house, and they need to have a certain standard of life. My grandparents did not think that. My grandparents lived in the same house that they paid off when they were 40 years old their entire lives. Until the day they died, they lived in the same house. It wasn't an investment. It was a place to raise your family. My parents say a house is an investment. You don't buy a house unless you can make money on it. Is that what a home is? No, a home is where you raise your kids and love each other. So that's just the difference I see. Everyone is told they need certain things, and they don't need them. They just... Even when we were in the pawn shop the other day, the guy said, we provide a service to the community because these people wouldn't have these things otherwise. And by things he meant TVs, jewelry, iPads, guitars, all the things that we saw in this pawn shop. Why do these people need TVs? Why do they need smartphones? Why do they need guitars? Why can't we go back to a time where people lived and had what they needed? Food, family, community, a home, healthcare, things that you need. And then all these people are telling us we need all these other things that we don't actually need. And I fall into the trap, and we all fall into the trap. I think that I need things that I don't need. But I've come to realize through this project and through my own debt that what I need is a family that loves me, friends that support me, for some people faith in something, whether it's religion or themselves or the world, you know, and support from society.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I just listened to this NPR video that you sent the other day, and it was like all of these debt collectors will buy loans, pennies on the dollar, so $100,000 loans for a couple $100.
Everything's for sale.
And then on the marketplace, and then collect it.
Mm-hmm.
What? And then the guys started this Strike Now campaign where they buy up those debts and they just don't ever collect.
Mm-hmm.
And how beautiful of a model is that if society as a whole just said, you know what, like we're going to buy up these student loan debts and we're just going to let it be
Mm-hmm.
and not collect
Mm-hmm.
because they can afford it. And we don't even do that in our families. My uncle could pay off my student loan debt right now and it wouldn't even hurt him because
Yeah.
he's that wealthy.
Yeah.
It wouldn't even affect him.
Yeah, that's painful.
And like I would never ask him to do that, and he would never ask to do that, or he would never offer to do that because we have this mentality in society that you need to earn your own way, earn your keep, pull yourself up by your bootstraps. And if I give you something, if I give you a handout, then you know I'm just enabling your weakness.
Mm-hmm.
I'm enabling you to mooch off society.
Mm-hmm.
And that may be true, but my roommate Ben, his parents are very rich. His stepdad and his mom are very wealthy. They have 3 homes.
Wow.
But they're not going to help him with his wedding. Because his other siblings, his step-siblings, have taken advantage of his parents' support. So why would they continue to feed in to a system of enabling moochers?
Well, but if we go by your logic too, he doesn't need the help because we don't need things.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like he can have it in the park.
Right.
And not spend any money and
And like people would play at your wedding.
yeah.
If I had a wedding, I could go and I could find people who I knew who played instruments and say, hey,
Oh, totally.
would you come play at my wedding?
Yeah.
Would you bring your guitar and come play at my wedding at the park?
Right.
And everyone who wants to come. Strangers can come, friends can come, family can come. And we're just going to share together our talents and our skills. And we're going to celebrate together.
Right.
Because somebody in our community is forming a life together.
Right.
And isn't that exciting? Isn't it exciting that 2 people in the community, in the neighborhood we live in, love each other and want to start a family and want to support the neighborhood now? But instead, I can only invite 250 people, my closest friends, because if that stranger down the street came who I don't like, if that hobo over there came, then that would be really bad.
Put us over budget.
You know, because that hobo would really, he's dirty,
Right.
and he's a stranger, and I don't trust him, and I don't like him because he's not like me.
Right.
I'm going to exclude him from my celebration, and I really need a fancy catering dinner so that everyone can look at, oh, how great this is. Like, look how wonderful your life is, and look how put together you are. Why? It's just so unreal,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not the way things used to be. And it may sound like idealistic or fancy, but like, I'm not talking about hippies getting together in a park. I'm talking about like people in neighborhoods celebrating with each other and sharing their skills with each other, whether it be cooking, whether it be playing an instrument, whether it be loving each other, whatever you want to bring to the table.
Sounds like
bring it
hippies,
to
Andrew.
Bring it to the table. You know, like, and then it just makes a lot more sense to me to do it that way. And I never thought that way until now, because I never needed help before until now.
Mm.
And now that I need help, I recognize how little help there is. You know?
Yeah, for sure.
So community in neighborhoods is what it's all about.
I agree.
I mean,
Well, I hope that I can follow up with you more later,
Yeah.
but we have to cut it off because it's noon.
yeah, that's cool.
It was a good interview.
That's great.